Hello, everybody. It's Ron, and we've got headlines. And let's get right to it. We got Trump here crowned on the cover, on the front page here, or the only page of the Drudge Report. And then we have Trump attacks Drudge. Now, this is sort of about why I've chosen Drudge to look at every day and to go over the headlines, because Drudge for a long time now has been a site where media professionals, even though they don't want to admit it, look at this site because it plays up, it shows a lot of different headlines and issues that will probably be attractive to the average viewer out there, and thus news sites might want to highlight these sort of headlines. It's sort of a window into how the average sort of moderate to conservative American is thinking about things. That's one way to look at it. The other way is people attack Drudge to say he, by the headlines he's put on there, is crafting public opinion. And this started way back in the 90s with Clinton, because Drudge broke the Lewinsky scandal. The mainstream media, when it was brought up to them, said they were not going to cover that. It wasn't really news. It's a personal affair. Drudge made it news on this crazy thing called the internet, which 25 years ago was considered a toy for crazy people in their basement. I think it still is, but he proved that he could create that issue with Clinton and Lewinsky, hurt the presidency, and force the media to report on those stories, even if they decided they're not going to. So anyway, here we have Trump attacks Drudge. Now, Drudge was always criticized since the Clinton era of being a right winger, of pushing the more moderate to conservative to highly conservative issues. And it was thought that, it's said in the media in 2016 that Trump wouldn't have been able to romp into the White House without Drudge going soft on him, in that Drudge purposely did not promote a lot of the alarmist headlines that were coming out about Trump. But in 2020, he was he kind of was unleashed on Trump. And this year, and I've talked about this in the past weeks, in the past month now, both in the Democrat Party and the Republican Party, we have the money men, the power brokers. Both of them want to get rid of the leading candidate. The Democrats want to get rid of Biden. Biden's clearly senile and not up to the task. The Republicans want to get rid of Trump. Trump's has too many unforced errors. He's too chaotic, and there's no telling what someone like that will do, and it's thought to be not good for the ideology of the party to be associated with someone as sort of unhinged as Trump can be. So, what do we have here? We have in the past few weeks Drudge piling on, along with a lot of Republican insiders, to try to play up the negative aspect about Trump and his presidency. And here we've got a tweet from Trump saying that Drudge went anti-Trump, blah, 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 blah. Nobody cares about it anymore. So Trump's taking a shot at Drudge. Of course, that raises the profile of this site, so Drudge is going to promote that tweet. Here we have one of the people openly in the Republican Party, Liz Cheney, the daughter of former Vice President Dick Cheney, the Cheneys at one point were sort of reviled as old-time Nixonian era Republicans who were evil and don't care about the people and were a symbol of that era. Well, the media's kind of changed their tune as the Cheneys, Dick Cheney has become one of the big critics, open critics in the Republican Party of Trump. And These are the warnings. These are the sort of warnings you usually see from the left-leaning media. The Democrats say, very alarmist things about Trump, saying that Trump is going to stay in office. There's no way you could get him out of there again if he's elected. I don't know how true that really is, but there's a lot of stuff that's being floated in the media about things that Trump might do when he is president, enact the Insurrection Act to jail his political opponents. Although within those same articles, you also see the everyone denying that there is anything like that being planned, or that the report that's being cited that says the Insurrection Act will be enacted, they say, well, that's not in the report at all. So we do have probably some fear mongering here, but a lot of it's probably justified if we've just from Trump's own statements. Here we have Fox probably adding to the pile to call out the things Trump said that were untrue. This is very unusual because Fox is a very right-leaning, right-wing media. I certainly in the past, I'm an old-timey person. I probably will lean a little right myself, but Fox is quite, an extraordinary tragedy in U.S. media in terms of how partisan they have been on one side of the debate. So I think this is a harbinger of what we're going to see in the coming months. When we get into next year, we're going to see Trump again. He's going to be dominating the news one way or another. And I'll tell you, a lot of people, when they hear this alarmist stuff about Trump taking over, about the Insurrection Act, about jailing political opponents, about never leaving office, a lot of his supporters, and that's arguably the majority in the U.S. now, they support that and they like that. I understand that the Democrats, I understand that the left are saying these things to try to instruct the populace that they should not vote for Trump, just as they did in 2016. But there are a lot of people that feeds into what they think the country needs. It's a sad state of affair that politics has devolved into something like this. Here's more. Could 2024 election cause society to collapse? Some preppers think so. Those are people who prep for the end times and get lots of food, so they're going to live in a bunker for years. Again, the fact that Trump is putting this article on his site is showing he's working with these the insiders to make sure the public is a little bit scared of Trump. Here's other things. Trump angry and eating too much, blah, blah, blah. A warning from a magazine. There's a new McDonald's. I don't know why I'm always interested in McDonald's. And anytime McDonald's is mentioned, I find myself end up ordering some food from McDonald's. But here's this Cosmix. It's an interesting little thing. A new spinoff from McDonald's. Now I'm hungry for McDonald's. I hate, even if I see like the red and the yellow colors of the McDonald's logo stuff, suddenly I'm hungry for that McDonald's stuff and some salty fries. They really got us brainwashed for that junk food, don't they? Gold hits record. Of course, this is a lot of unease about the economy. And I've talked about this for weeks past when the media's been saying everything's fine, it's better than ever, you're wrong to want change. Most people who are not trying to play in the political cycle understand that a recession has to be on its way and inflation is too high, and it hits and it impacts average people no matter what the media tries to tell people. What else do we have here? We've got, here's DeSantis. DeSantis predicts Iowa win as Operation Backing Him fractures. DeSantis is I guess you would say, at one point he was thought of as the last best hope to unseat Trump or replace Trump. He was like a Trump-like candidate, but not unhinged or not full of lots of unforced errors. As I keep saying, he was not as chaotic apparently in his he was a politician, a conventional politician. However, his campaign sort of failed, and he's seen as a failed primary candidate. However, because there is this backroom push to get Trump out of there and put someone else in his place, he's got he's being pushed very hard in the Iowa primary that's coming up next year. And whoever wins those first series of primaries, they almost always got the nomination locked up. And DeSantis has the the approval of the governor of Iowa, who has backed him, told people to vote for DeSantis. Very strange for a consequential figure like the governor of Iowa in the Iowa primaries to back a candidate who is thought of as already failed. But this is the push to say, we got to get someone else in there. Let's see what else we have here. Here we got stuff about, the other day, a U.S. Navy, which is all over the world, hundreds of billions of dollars, U.S. taxpayer pays to keep all the shipping lanes clear and free, and they're off the coast of Yemen, at the Horn of Africa, and there's a Horn of Africa on one side, Yemen on the other, which is a very chaotic place, and there were drones that were shot at shipping there. Obviously, it's something that's working in coordination with the war in the Middle East to try to widen that situation. It certainly shows that many countries see the U.S. as overtaxed. Overtaxed, and they're overstretched in what they can do around in the world. And there's probably, back in the United States, there's probably very little appetite from the U.S. public for more wars and conflicts. Tunnels and Israel fighting, rocket base hit, Netanyahu on trial for corruption again. Here we have Kushner, is it Trump's son-in-law? Is this? And, the Qatari PM, yes, trying to work on some peace deal, probably behind the backs of the Biden administration. Yeah, that's a hot spot there. I think Ukraine is fighting, lots of fighting. It's almost been blown off the front pages of all the news since the Israeli war started. Oh, here we go. Here we got Ukraine right here. White House warns they're out of money. They've gone through the $111 billion appropriated. And I don't think Congress wants to give them more money. I think a lot of Americans are not interested to fund that war, or not that interested whether Russia has access to the the Crimea area, warm water ports there. I think all of that, I think America should be supporting the international order, and it would be great to knock Russia back and make sure that this destroys them as a vector of conflict. However, for a long time now, the U.S. public has been fed a diet of I suppose it's propaganda or propaganda from the media that says that war is bad, innocent women and children die, you're wasting money. We heard this a lot during the George W. Bush administration, and then afterwards, anytime we have conflicts, we have this sort of thinking. So we get now to a Democratic administration, and we're starting up 2 new huge wars where women and children are going to get killed and hundreds of billions are being spent. And I think maybe the American public has listened to the propaganda or the propaganda, depending on your viewpoint, concerning the conduct of wars. So that's why it may be difficult to make the case to keep funding these wars in Ukraine and in Israel. We have something about a celebrity who's gay. I'm not sure why that's news anymore. I don't know how much this is interesting to people, but if you're not from the U.S., it's always important to know that each of the states in the U.S. is like its own little country. It has its own government, has its own completely different laws. It has different names for every infraction the law defines, different names for the police. So, and it has both conservative and liberal bents. And so the two big paragons of this, a big example, is liberal California and conservative Texas. And this is an interesting article here from MSN that talks about where those differences come from. Here we have California fervently protects abortion rights. Texas bans nearly all abortions. Texas upholds gun rights. California strictly regulates firearms, etc., etc. And I think this may come as a surprise. I know a lot of European people or Asian people I know who most countries seem to have a very federalized system of laws where one law blankets the whole country, one ethos blankets the whole country, but in the United States it is not like that at all. Some guy who says he's got a lot of money is going to have a communist revolution. Okay. I find it very fascinating and funny. This was the referendum the other day, where on the referendum it said, should Venezuela invade the neighboring country, take its oil resources? That's why. And the people, they were all for it. I would say, though, Venezuela and its history of governing itself and its disastrous economy, they really don't have any reason to be taking over anybody else's country. Maybe they need to be taken over, and certainly you wouldn't want Venezuela style of governance over somebody else's country. That would be a hard case to make, considering the failure of Venezuela. What else do we have? We have some spy. I don't know why anyone would ever do that for the tiny amounts of money, and how you get so in trouble. We've got China in the South China Seas. This is another big, huge regional conflict where, bizarrely, and I always give the advice to China, bizarrely, instead of trying to make allies of its neighbors, it's making enemies of them and pushing them into other alliances to resist China and keep China contained. See, if China were smart, they'd say, oh, Vietnam, we're contesting this island here. Guess what? We want you to have that island. That's yours. We're giving it up. But we'd like to just have a port of call on one of your ports down there, and we'll sign an agreement for, 30 years or whatever. And we'd like to have some yearly cooperation between our military. But we're going to give you that. They should do that to all those countries and make friends of them instead of enemies pushing them away. But I guess I'm glad they haven't done that, because I certainly do not want autocratic China to prevail. Earth's magnetic field could completely flip soon. There's something to worry about, maybe. I don't know. Sex scenes in film and TV falling to historic lows. Is this... I mean, you grew up in the 70s, or I don't even... I can show this. If you grew up in the 70s or 80s, sex was in ridiculous places. I remember Trading Places with Dan Aykroyd, where suddenly just Jamie Lee Curtis comes in topless. And I don't mean... See, today when they say a topless photo, they mean a person covering. They're not actually topless. But a few years before that, like say 15 years ago, topless meant no top on, thus the topless. And so you just, Jamie Lee Curtis in like Trading Places topless for no reason, but you expected that. That was required to be at every mass market film, and that's totally disappeared. I don't know if it's, do we respect women more? Are we that much more conservative? Are we becoming a kind of Muslim conservative in covering up women, not focusing on their bodies? Maybe the Muslims have a point there. Maybe women should be covered up at some point. Is it bad for men to look at women? Is that a negative thing? I don't know. But this is a fact. Who would have thought that? You see, people in the 70s thought that porn films were going to go mainstream, but they never did. This shows how these trends go back and forth. And now we're in certainly a very conservative era of media. And this is my book about modern times. There are still unknown places. It's about people who go to the end of the earth to live and work, who can never grasp that place, that concrete metropolis of Bangkok, and also locals, where Bangkok is the center of their world, and it's changing beyond all bounds with huge skyscrapers and new ways of living and working that will upend all the old traditions. This is my magnum opus about living and working in a place and our hopes and our fears in modern times. It's on Amazon. It's on Kindle. You can read it if you want. I'd love it if you'd let me know what you think of it. I worked hard on it. Please buy my book. This is a card set I've been showing. I think this may be the most popular part of my site, or the channel here. This is an Art of War playing card set. We're looking at one of these every day to see if they can give us some advice about our conduct in work and business. So today we've got, wait a second, what am I doing? Douse the fire that boils the water. Come on, focus. Okay, well, I'll read this for you. Douse the fire that boils the water. Now, the strategy is neutralize your adversary's source of power to undermine his strength and endurance. The basis of this is a loss of power challenges your adversary's capacity to realize his plans. So sometimes maybe we don't want to attack directly the adversary, the literal or figurative adversary in our life, but maybe we want to cut off their sustenance, cut off their base that sustains them and powers them. So anyway, that's the headlines today. I'm going to be expecting a lot of more interesting anti-Trump stuff to come out now, as things are going to get critical once we get to the Iowa primary, and we'll see if all the forces that exist can force King Trump off the wall and replace him with somebody else. I will see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.